Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Ekko and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Ekko and Sidetrack.
Hey buddy, how are you?
I'm okay, grinding into my own reality a bit, but
The old reality grind.
the reality grind.
Is that a move on Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4? The reality grind? That wasn't introduced.
I think it was like a special if you Christ aired the whole stair set in the school.
Yeah.
You 360 Christ air got your reality grind.
He's grinding reality. But yeah, how you said you're having a bit of a reality grind. What does that even mean?
It means, Jeff, that you said to me last week, you said, have you thought about coming home? And I got mad at you when you said it.
This was not on the podcast, by the way, just in case people are like, I didn't hear anything about this.
Oh, no, this wasn't on the podcast. I think, and I mean, you know, we have a month left on the current lockdown, but it's probably going to go into more lockdowns. And you said, have you thought about coming home? And I got mad at you because I was like, I fucking told you that I wasn't. I'd made up a decision. But on reflecting, and I've been thinking about it more, because the reasons for me being in this country are, the business reasons for me being in this country are now not as prominent as they once were.
That may be an understatement.
And the business reasons for me being in Australia are more beneficial. But I guess since that conversation with you, and I reacted badly and got frustrated at you, I've spoken to a couple of people. I've got some advice. I've been thinking about it more. And like, I guess now I'm trying to be like, okay, let's start looking at logistics of me coming home. And during that, I'm kind of coming to terms with that idea and what it looks like for me to go home and abandon my life here and the life that I've built here. And that's a bit difficult for me to comprehend at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm having to make a couple of decisions that fucking suck. And I feel like I'm kind of emotionally blocked off a little bit. Like I feel like I'm kind of protecting myself a bit. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I feel my thoughts are a bit swirling and all over the place when I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, understandably.
And I spoke to Simon. Shout out to the Short Order crew.
Best burgers in WA.
And he gave me some good advice.
He's a sage, wise man.
He's a sage man. And I'm going to talk to more people, but like, I don't know. It just feels, part of it feels like the right thing to do. There's just so many emotions about it. Part of it feels like the right thing to do and like the right thing for business and etc. But then when I start thinking about that, I'm then going like, okay, then what do I do back home? Where do I live? What do I accomplish there? Like it's such a mammoth. Either choice has these giant waves of what ifs around them, and I'm currently kind of being awash with those what ifs.
Yeah.
Rather than simplifying it and keeping it as simple as possible. And what I'm trying to come back to is I can't do anything about this for at least a month. Like I can start making plans. I could book a flight. I could start looking at logistics, stuff like that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not leaving in less than a month. So I've got this breathing room to just settle and calm down and hopefully ride the London Eye before I can leave, because I haven't done that the whole time I've been here, and that's all I fucking wanted to do. And I'm just trying to simplify things as much as possible, because otherwise I feel like overwhelmed and just a bit like a deer in headlights.
I feel like the absolute distillation of what you have is, do I want to stay in London or do I want to be in Australia? Like, rather than thinking of it as returning home or being away from home or whatever,
Yeah.
just be like, do I want to be in Australia or do I want to be in London? Because whatever you're going to do when you get here there's so many different choices, but it's like, you are here, therefore all your decisions can now happen here, rather than being, or you're there and all your decisions happen there. But yeah, so I mean, it is a big deal. But I would say don't try and get too far ahead of, thinking about what you're going to do when you get back, because the big decision is that you are in Australia and then you do have choices, Jono, because in the UK at the moment you don't really have much choice, do you?
No, but the strong thing that's keeping me here is my friends.
And how close your house is to Greg's?
I haven't been to Greg's for a fucking long time, but there is a Greg's in Deptford that I should probably go to.
If there's any place that's probably got COVID, it might be a Greg's. So
yeah, get a chicken bake and you've definitely got COVID.
But
or TB.
In all seriousness.
Oh, live gifting. Thanks, Shawnee.
Oh, a gifting. This hasn't happened on the podcast in some time. Take me through it, Jonathan.
It says Mr. Jonathan Hansen.
Describe the bag.
Describe the bag. The bag it's wrapped in like medical tape. Feels like it's wrapped in medical tape. It's got some foreign writing on it. Oh, Jeff, this is actually a great... Okay, this is a great thing, okay? So, we'll do it live. I have here a Christmas present for you.
Christmas present for me? So it's actually a gift giving, it's a gifting for me.
Yeah.
What a twist, people. Are you watching this? If you've just tuned in, Jonathan just opened a gift, and it turns out the gift's not actually for him, it's actually for me. But he's opening it on the other side of the world.
I'll show you what this is first. No, I won't. I'll explain it. We have a friend who is an extremely talented artist. And about 3 months ago, I asked her to make something for me. She's wrapped it up good and proper. I can't even unwrap it.
Well, don't break it. Ride the walrus.
Oh, God.
Jonathan is scratching around doing something.
Okay, so I commissioned something.
Okay.
Oh, my God. The second layer is even more complicated. I commissioned something because there's a photo that exists of us, Jeff, that I think is just a really nice photo. And I wanted it commemorated.
Honestly, to me, it sounds like you're just crunching things, and I'm like...
I got her to make this.
Whoa. Fuck, that's amazing. That's so good.
Everyone, I just showed Jeff my dick. And that's the gift.
Oh my gosh, who made that?
Michelle.
Man.
Dutch Michelle.
Michelle. You are so skilled.
Right? So fucking talented. It looks like the textures on it. But basically, is it macro? It's not macrame.
Macrame, I think, is the word you're looking for, but it's not macrame. Is it embroidery?
Embroidery.
No, it's not embroidery. Is it embroidery?
I think it's embroidery.
We don't even know what it's called.
And I fucking commissioned it. That's fucking stupid. Fuck.
It's amazing though.
For those at home who cannot see what I've just shown Jeff, it's probably about 8 inches across, a little circle embroidery, and it's a picture of Jeff and I taken at a 70s party we attended. We're holding 2 margaritas or 2 Aperol Spritz, maybe actually. We're dressed up and watching 2 Aperol Spritz, and it says Brothers on the top of it. It's a photo that we've posted on our Instagram before, and we'll probably post up a photo of the actual embroidery when we post the podcast. And just so you know, this is recorded as I'm editing it because I've just listened to this whole section and been like, you idiots don't even describe the thing that you're so excited about. But yeah, now back to your regular programming.
That is really, and the colors, it's amazing. And like the necklaces and stuff. And man, we should turn that into a t-shirt.
Yeah. It's fucking awesome. So I got it because I wanted to put something in my room that reminded me of you.
So did you buy 2 of them or just 1 of them?
No, I just got 1 of them.
Oh, so is it a gift for me or is it a gift for you?
Well, it's a gift for you because, man, our hair is textured as well.
It's
fucking
amazing.
Sick. No, well, because when I come home, we'll put it in the studio.
Oh, yeah. I love that, man. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle. You're amazing, and I hope you're safe where you are, being a sweet little lady that you are.
She's a talented young lady. So her Instagram is Michelle Gringhouse. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. Michelle, and then it is GRINGHUIS. Textile art. Follow her and DM her for some wicked art, man. She makes the sickest stuff. Like, some of her pillows look amazing. She's just really talented. When we'll post a photo up with the podcast. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, she's also hilarious as well.
She is fucking hilarious. Oh, man. I love those people. See, like, okay, even thinking about, I'm going to have to cut that gift giving down a bit. Thinking about, like, Michelle and Fred and Ramon and, like, Armin and Joe and, like, all the fucking boardroom. All the people that I'm close to now that I love, but I can't see. And it's not like I'm not going to see them again.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not going to be as easy to see them. But at the same time, it's not easy to see them now. I'm in a fucking
exactly
holding pattern of the UK at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot of things, man, affecting my brain at the moment and my choices. And
has that gift opening buoyed your spirits a little bit?
Yeah, it has made my spirit a bit higher.
But I completely get what you're some of what you're feeling.
I just don't. I want to make sure that it's the right decision.
Well, in some ways, the decision that you make is the right decision. And at some point, and also having agency over that decision will make you feel better rather than, just being asked to leave when your visa's up.
Yeah. No, totally.
And then as things start happening here, you'll be like, okay, cool, now things are moving again. Because whether you know it or not, Jono, you've gotten used to things happening at an extremely slow pace or not really happening at all. And so it's like, now that something could happen, you're like, whoa, Nelly. It is a big move. I'm not diminishing that. I'm just saying.
But no, you're absolutely right. Like, going back to the pace of fucking what we're going to be at in Perth is going to be weird. The other thing, man, I thought about is like, what happens if you go to New Zealand and I don't go? What happens if you go play shows elsewhere and like things happen for you that I can't experience and I'm still in lockdown? That's the thing that's like, that I kind of realized.
The worlds are very different.
And, you know, even just seeing like the videos that fucking from Rob and Nick in New Zealand have made me be like, oh, I'm sure around everyone's probably seeing them and being like, fuck, that looks amazing. But that has definitely increased my yearning to go home.
Also because you can.
Or yearning to just experience a fucking show and like to play a show.
Because you can, Jonathan. Like, think of the millions of people in worldwide that look at that and go, I would give my left nut, breast, hand, whatever, to be able to do that. And you actually do have the chance. Like, you're an Australian citizen with the right to return back to Australia. And then, you know, those opportunities are, a distinct possibility.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's a hard choice. It's definitely, this is Mein Kampf though. This is my struggle. This is this is the universe. You know, I'm not a particularly decisive person. And you could say that I have furlonged making some decisions in the past.
Is that the correct expression? I'm going to let it go because I like making up words, but it's interesting. Yeah, you definitely have.
And like, this is the big dog being like, hey, let's throw a big decision in J-Man's fucking ring.
I heard it recently said that
cram it in my ring.
Sorry, you just broke up there for a second. I heard recently that when you learn something, you'll often be challenged. And it's almost like the universe saying, oh, you think you know this thing? Now apply that knowledge. And sometimes it happens on a smaller scale. You know? I'm feeling agitated. Don't have a go at the next person that says something to me. And then 5 minutes later, someone says something to you and you're like, ugh. And you walk away going, oh, I missed a chance to get rid of my agitation.
To learn.
Yeah, to learn. But sometimes it's significantly bigger. You know, it's the same thing that's like, you know, a person learning a language will learn all these things and then all of a sudden someone that speaks that language comes to visit or they cross paths with them and they're like, whoa, I'm put to the test. And you're outside of your comfort zone, but you realize that you either do know or you don't know. You rise to or you fall to the level of your training, not rise to the level of your expectations. And I think maybe this is a big test for you to, again, take some control over the decisions that you're making, Jono, because arguably, I mean, tell the audience where you're at with your Celebrant course.
My Celebrant course is finished. I've handed everything in.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I can't film the final stages. I have to film every ceremony I've written, but obviously I can't film that because currently in the UK you can't be in each other's house and there's no household mixing. So I'm waiting on a deferral. I'm waiting for them to accept a deferral for 3 months.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe, Johnny, in some weird way, you had to go away and have enough time that you really had to come to terms with doing this work and sitting down and doing this work. And it took you a while, but now you can make decisions a bit easier.
Yeah, I can make decisions a bit easier, and I feel a lot better for doing it, but it's odd, man. It's just odd. There's a bit of an exodus.
Yeah, like I said.
That are close to me.
And the people that can probably are thinking like that.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. That's where I am at the moment.
Interesting spot to be in, buddy. But I'm glad you're thinking about it and, starting to look at the possibilities. Because the other thing is, I can't remember who said it to me the other day, but they basically said that I think he should come home, but at the same time, any decision to come home is not going to be an instant one. If he does want to come home, he needs to get in line, because Australia is currently only allowing 500 people into this country at once. In a mad pile.
The Australian pipe is Perth are allowing 512 in a week, which is mental because you think about how many people are on a flight.
Oh yeah,
and they're not. I would 100. There's 130 people on a flight, and I imagine they're doing like not full capacity flights. So let's say there's 60 people on a flight.
Where do you get 130 people on a flight from?
There's about 150. I don't know. I fucking made that up.
Do you want to know how many people fit on a 737? Like the normal planes that fly into Perth? Probably around 400 people.
How many people fit in a Dreamliner? Dreamliner.
Nah. Oh yeah. 767.
767. 216.
What about a 787?
Dreamliner is 248.
Well, I was well off. Maybe I'm thinking the big boy, A380.
On an A380, what the fuck? That's ridiculous. How many people do you reckon can fit on an A380?
486.
853.
Oh shit. An A380, 800 people.
That's more people that were in my primary school. That's fucking ridiculous.
I'm going to put the whole school on board and then we're going to start loading the other school and we'll get out of there.
That's crazy. Okay, so, let's just average 200 people on a flight. That's 2.5 flights into Perth a week, and there's usually, I think, either 2 or 4 flights arriving just from London every day. It was like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, I'd say that.
So and that's all across the whole fucking world.
Yeah, so it's really
so maybe there's 1 flight from London every week.
Yeah, that's
maybe.
What I mean.
Like,
you're gonna go direct?
No, Qantas aren't flying direct.
Qantas start their flights again in July, I think. Yeah, maybe I have to go Emirates or something.
Yeah, Emirates. And then, I might not even be able to fucking come to WA. I might have to go to elsewhere. Which is just going to be another fucking clusterfuck. Go to Sydney and then drive by myself from Sydney to Perth. Fucking end the journey as a road warrior.
Well, that's the thing. It is going to be a process. It's not just like, well, on February the 16th, I'm going to go to Heathrow and get on a plane. It's probably going to be a bit of back and forth thing. So,
and that's good. That allows me to. I've got time. I've got time to process the decision, which is good. It's not like, I feel like last time it was a bit quicker. It was like, last time was more pressure when I was going to fly back last year.
Oh, yeah, when you were going to fly back at the end of March.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real pressure cooker. I'm kind of glad you didn't.
Oh, me too. I mean, I'm so thankful I didn't come home. I have had such a great year. I think I've learnt immensely from living by myself during the first quarantine. Fucking being responsible for an animal by myself. Being like making friends with people. Working back in the kitchen. Becoming closer to the people at Cockfighter, meeting Jim and Shawnee, like now who I live with. Like there's so many positives.
Yeah, man, you've become, I mean, you've become the next version of yourself.
I've become more me, I think.
Yeah, I'd believe that. You maybe went from being Jonathan 3.2 to being Jonathan 4.0.
Yeah, or Jono 2.6 to Jonathan 3.5. I mean, the numbers are just whatever, but I think I've gone from Jono to Jonathan.
Oh.
And I've also learnt, Jeff, to catch a bus. I mean, I've always been able to catch a bus, but I like a bus trip. I like a long bus trip. I might get a bus when I'm back home.
I'm going to remind you of this when you're in Perth, and I'm like, catch the bus to the studio, bro. Don't worry about it.
I want to borrow your car, man. Yeah, maybe. But no, I've.
So, do you think you do want to come home?
I don't want to miss out on some opportunities that now are presenting themselves in Australia. Yeah, because it sucks that the government here can't. There's no definites. There's no like lockdown's going to be extended. The vaccine's going to be out everywhere. Everything's going to open up in summer. Because for sure, I know that if I go home, there's going to be a time in June or July where things open back up and fucking the party, the end of COVID party essentially happens that I've been wanting to do.
To be honest, Jono, it's not going to happen in July. The end of COVID party that you want to attend, that you would not be a fucking major health risk, probably won't happen in the UK till November. And do you know what? We can fly over for it. And we can have the celebration here at the end of COVID.
No, can you leave Perth?
I'm not sure. I probably can if I had some sort of exemption status. COVID party ending may not be part of that exemption status, but that's a good point. But still.
But then I think about like what does it look like for me to stay here?
And what does it look like? A brown smear on a white piece of paper?
Just not much changing. Like no shows. Become closer to friends. And the friends is the thing that kills me. It's like the life that I've built here. But really, I just get closer to them to then be pulled away. Which sounds pretty fucking dramatic, but like
they're your friends, and I think they'll be lifelong friends, and then the return you be stronger. I'm quite jealous that you've become, better friends with some people that I'm friends with too. But you've had the chance to solidify those relationships over longer amounts of time rather than 2 week stints or stints here and there. So I think what you've done is a beautiful thing, and I've done the same thing here. I've become friends with all sorts of people you don't even know about. I've got friends whose names you can't even pronounce. So there.
I was thinking, if I come home, the one of the biggest differences is like you're not my
brother anymore.
Yeah, like you've got a partner and like you've got friends, and I don't know, it's weird. It's like
buddy, you'll be straight back in.
It's weird.
We will be fucking around in the studio within 15 minutes of you being here.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be weird, but whatever happens, God wills it. So.
As above, so below, Jonathan.
As above, so below. Okay. Let's move on from that.
Okay.
I feel like laughing. So I'll tell you a little anecdote that happened to me yesterday.
Please.
I was at Sainsburys doing my weekly shop, and I was buying a bottle of wine. Really starting to appreciate French Pinot Noirs, by the way.
Beautiful. Is that a Burgundy? Is a French Pinot is called a Burgundy?
I'm not too sure, but they're quite light, and I really like it. The French wine here is just fucking good, and I feel like I haven't appreciated it enough. I also bought some eggs, and the eggs, I'd filled up the basket quite extensively, and the eggs were sitting at the top, and I was kind of swinging the basket slightly. The eggs fell. The eggs broke. 2 of them broke. 1 fell out, or 2 fell out, and 1, half broken, rolled underneath the shelf.
Oh.
And I looked around. There was 1 guy there. I kind of put the broken egg that had left the carton that was still there. I put that back in the carton and then looked down under the shelf, and it was like 2 meters. These are wide shelves. So a half broken egg was just like right at the end. I was like, I can't grab that. And so I grabbed my wine, looked around, went back to the egg where the eggs are, looked around again, put the carton back.
Yeah.
Grabbed another carton.
Yep.
And didn't tell anyone that the egg had rolled under the shelf, because I want to go back in a couple of days and see if that section smells like fucking rotten egg.
And then you'll really have some sort of comment on about Sainsbury's cleaning practices.
I'm like a biological terrorist. I think that's...
Don't say that kind of thing on the podcast. It'll get you locked up in your country, Jonathan.
It might do, but it was a little test. I'm testing Sainsbury's.
Do you think you're going to, when you do work out whether or not you do want to come home, do you think you've got a few things that you want to do before you say goodbye to the UK for a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I will. I really want to go to Cornwall. I don't know the reality of that happening. I want to ride through central London. At the moment, we're going to go for a ride sometime, maybe even this weekend, just because the roads are so dead.
Yeah, it'd be good.
I want to walk across London Bridge. I'd like to go back to the Barbican. The Barbican is such a fucking cool building. And I'd like to take more photos. But yeah, I mean, it's fucked because nothing else is open, so it's all about walking around. And it's interesting to see monuments and not think much of them. Like on the bus to work, I drive past Westminster every single day. I go to work and I'm like, And I gaze at it and I'm still like, there's part of me that's like, fuck, that's a cool building. That's wicked that it's so old, and I never really take stock too much.
And do you think it had more clout because there was people around it, so you'd believe it?
Yeah, maybe. I'd also like to go to a Michelin-star restaurant.
Is that possible?
No.
Jonathan, when do you think Westminster Abbey was opened?
1600s?
You're off by 600 years.
1000.
1090. 1090.
Dude, that's fucking insane. It's such a cool building. Like, it is an amazing, amazing building.
I don't even know where it is. I have seen less monuments in the UK than most people, I think. But okay, they're all good, achievable little goals to have before you go. Good for you. Just a quick shout out to the people on Instagram that did get in touch about enjoying our podcast. Shout out to Stacey. She said, she says, I'm a woman getting in touch to say I love the podcast, and said some other kind things. So big up, Stacey. I'll tell you what other people want, Jonathan, is a tutorial on how to make scrambled eggs. Because the scrambled eggs that I posted on the internet the other day were not my scrambled eggs. I ate them, but my chef mate prepared them, and Jonathan is a chef mate as well, and he knows how to do them better than I would. Peter, the guy who did those eggs on Instagram though, has poached 1.3 million eggs in his time as a breakfast chef.
How did he work that out?
He calculated how many he does a week and how many weeks he's worked, and the fact that he took fuck all holidays during his work is pretty. It means it's pretty consistent. And let that be said that's between two restaurants. He was a chef for 20 years, but he only started cooking, being a breakfast chef, in the last 5 years of his, or 6 years of his chefness.
Yeah, it would have been at Highland. Highland was the first time he was poaching heaps of eggs.
Yeah, so between Highland and Laker, he reckons he poached 1.3 million eggs.
That's fucking
which is insanity. And I'm sure he scrambled about a ton as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of Peter, he kind of invented a colour the other day. One of my other mates was talking to him and said, "Oh, what colour's the car?" And he said, "Electric brown." which it's funny when you think about it. That's so ridiculous. Normally be electric blue or electric green or something like that. But I know what an electric brown looks like. It's that bronzy kind of goldy shine color.
It's like sheen, brown sheen.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a brown gloss.
Yeah, it's just funny. Electric brown is not exactly a thing that you'd think of. I really enjoyed my break over the New Year's.
Oh yeah, so before I'll ask you about that because you haven't really told me much about it. I'm just gonna go to the toilet first.
Okay.
I gotta do my own little electric brown. You took some time off over the Christmas period, and after your show in Adelaide, and you went on a little adventure.
Yeah, before I say about my little adventure, I will say that I've come back feeling pretty motivated. So I've decided that I want to start doing these little breaks of at least 5 days, at least 3 times a year, if not more, to get the thirst back and really hit it hard when I return. Yeah, so me and my girlfriend spent some time in the Barossa in South Australia, which is wine country, and it was bloody delightful. There was lots of laughter, and wine drinking, cheese, gin, movies, driving around in beautiful country, and not having to do anything really to a schedule. It was lovely.
I'm glad. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, and I haven't taken. Well, I kind of got lucky last year. I got to take a trip just before everything went pear-shaped. I went to Japan. That was quite a lot more party-based, I suppose, and also a little bit more stressful because just of the whole way the world was turning at the start of March. But this trip was just amazing. We grabbed the hire car and then you kind of just drive along a highway and you don't ever feel like you're going up a hill or anything. And then all of a sudden you're just you take a right-hand turn, and then you're in amongst a bunch of vineyards. And then then you start looking around and there's a lot more topography and things, rolling trees, and it gets quite cold at night. So it's hot during the day and there's a big wind, and some amazing spots and all these wineries you've seen bottles of, or maybe you've just heard of. They're all within 20 minutes drive, and that's only
how far.
The Barossa is 50 minutes from Adelaide, and then the McLaren Vale's probably 40 minutes from Adelaide, and you could probably drive from the Barossa to McLaren Vale in an hour or so. I don't know. and then Clare Valley and the Adelaide Hills are around there as well. Like there's just you could go nuts, and you could get as wanky or as non-wanky as you want. Like we did lots of tastings and tried lots of wine and bought a bunch, and we're not connoisseurs at all. We just know what we like, or you're like, oh, that tastes delicious. Let's buy a bottle of that. And yeah, it was lovely. It was fun. It was just like, and I did that thing, Jonathan. I didn't bring my laptop.
You didn't bring your laptop?
Didn't bring my laptop, just brought a
Wow.
tote bag. No, didn't just bring a tote bag, but no laptop. So it was pretty free. Like I can't do any work, so I'm not even going to think about work. And like the hardest thing we had to do was decide where we wanted to eat next, or like, oh, should we go to that one there? Should we have lunch at that one, or should we have lunch at that one? Like went to this cool winery called David Franz, and you get to choose your own little like tasting platter. Like you just tick off a list, and they just bring out all these like delights, and you do a tasting. That was beautiful. Went to a place called Koleski, which is a lovely family-owned winery, and they're like, we just sat there and drank 12 different kinds of wine, just like a little like 40 mils of each, and tried lots of different ones, and we bought a few bottles from them, and we laughed and ate cheese. Went to Maggie Beer's farm and ate some amazing fresh bread. Yeah, it was really, couldn't have asked for a better trip with a partner, I suppose. Like, and it's a girl I've never traveled with, so it was like kind of like a little like weird little test of some sorts, but we never really had any doubts that we travel well together. It was kind of just, it was funny. Like honestly, like I think I told you this, but like there were some moments on the trip where I was like, this is flashes of when Jonathan and I travel together. Like there's a lot of like joking going on and callbacks to other jokes and things like that. So yeah, it was actually it was kind of amazing. Shout out to Holly.
I think that's fantastic, man. I think that's really good. That's what a fucking relationship should be like.
Yeah,
a silly partner.
I think there's definitely a certain amount of silly that the Hansons need, and that silly is higher than most people can handle.
I would agree with that.
It's funny when something makes you laugh and when you remember it. I was listening to David Necturne on Duncan Trussell's podcast, who's a meditation teacher, and he was talking about kind of the feelings. Mindfulness meditation is just, focusing on your breath, and, it'll help you focus. But then he says the next level to that kind of thing is learning how to be more aware of what bubbles up from the nothing almost. And he's like, no feeling is ever permanent. Like nothing is glued there, but things just kind of like come and go, like bubbling up from the ocean and appear and then like disappear. And so if you can kind of learn to like be aware of them, almost like seeing a lizard crawl under the rock and just seeing its tail, you can like have this little moments of wonder, or like they're easier to hold on to or feel. And one example kind of is that he gives, like with compassion, it's like, think of someone that you really love being in pain, and that initial feeling is the perfect little thing to focus on. That's the first arising from the nothing. It's not the like, oh, they're in so much pain, oh, I've got to help them, or something that arises. That's like all extra that we add. And so I was just thinking about that in the same way that you remember a moment and then laugh or smile. That's almost the this perfect little like pre-feeling of that thing to like hold on to like feel good. I'm not sure if that made any sense. I'm sure if you put a phaser over it, it will.
How can you hold on to that moment though?
How can you hold on to it? But he also says you're not meant to hold on to it because it is just a lizard crawling under thing, and you never see the full lizard. It's just like a little like moment, but being able to know that those moments kind of are there, and that's the essence of what the soup, the ocean in you is made of, almost. Like so, and you can call that's the emptiness that Buddhists talk about, and also, and I might be butchering this, people, so please feel free to do your own research on it and things like that. But it's something I've thought about a little bit. The nothingness and like the soup is all just like swishing around in you, and then whatever you kind of will into existence will become more and more permanent. So that's why like being angry can feel very rigid and hard and stuff. Like you're like making it permanent, whereas like, you know, some of your happy feelings can feel a bit more fleeting because maybe they're a bit more fluid and like, you know, they're not meant to be held onto you, meant to ride that wave into the next wave. And that's what happiness is, rather than trying to hold on to the thing. Whereas anger is something you can hold on to, and it's very happy to be held. But when you let go of it, it kind of disappears.
I wonder why, wonder why those negative emotions are easier to remember, are easier to hold on to. You know, I can think about what someone said to me when I was in high school and still have this like, fuck that guy. But if I think of like another equally important memory to me, which was really happy, someone told me they loved me or something beautiful happened back in high school, it doesn't fill me with the same feelings.
It's something to do with the things we associate with negativity. It could have to do with things helping those memories stick. Like think of our machines. Like this brief article I just looked up then says things like, you know, associated hormones with happiness and stuff are serotonin and a bunch of those stuff. But with stressful situations, norepinephrine may prime the brain to remember what happened in order to avoid the same threat in the future. So like and you're thinking it may trigger more things somehow. I don't know. Once again, let me remind you, you are listening to two drum and bass producers talk about whatever it is we're talking about. So please do the research and then get back to us and we'll give you a shout out. There is a letters to the editor section.
That is a really good podcast, the new Duncan Trussell podcast with David Nectan. I love the way he laughs.
Oh man, he's got a lovely laugh. And I love his podcast I love his episode of
The Midnight Gospel.
The Midnight Gospel. Because it's like he's not in it for very long. It's like more about like how Clancy's getting frustrated, everything, and it's the beautiful little story that leads into the final one, I think, from memory. But another podcast, if we're doing podcast recommendations, Brian Fogel on Joe Rogan's podcast. This is the director of Icarus, which is a Netflix movie, the first Netflix movie to ever win an Oscar, which is all about the Russian doping scandal. And I've said that thing's been on Netflix for 3 years, and I've been like, I should watch it. Cycling doesn't really interest
good,
me.
man.
But like, hearing this guy explain it, I'm like, whoa, this sounds like it really blows the whole thing open. But then he starts talking about his new movie, which is called The Dissident, which is all about Jamal Khashoggi, who was the Saudi Arabian journalist who was very close with the royal family He was a journalist, and then he became, he was a little bit like negative on the royal family and moved to America. And then he was disappeared in pretty spectacular fashion. And
In America?
No, in Turkey, actually. I believe in Turkey. And it's quite a crazy story from a few years ago. And I remember when it happened, but this guy's done a full documentary on it. And it sounds like there's just even more wild stuff at play. And if you got into Joe Rogan a bunch of years ago, not giving myself some mad props, but the Joe Rogan podcast I used to love when I first got into it was when some guy would come on and talk about conspiracy theories or like talk about some wild stuff, and you'd be like, man, this is so sick. Like no one else is talking about this. This episode with Brian Fogel really feels like one of those, but this guy's a documentary filmmaker, and it's like, it's based on fact. And yeah, and the movie's called The Dissident, and I can't wait to rent or buy on iTunes, because apparently no major streaming service will offer it as part of their package. Like you're allowed to like rent it on Amazon or whatever, but no one wanted to buy it, even though it got like massive props at Sundance. He's an Oscar nominated guy, and he's like, no one wants to touch it because everyone's got investments from Saudi, and everyone thinks it's too hot to touch.
Oh man!
So there's like all sorts of things at play, and there's like ties to Trump. And like it's wild. Yeah, so
fuck.
The world is definitely doing very strange things at the moment, Jono, and there's been times when I've thought of Perth as a nest, as a place I want to get out of, as like a fuck this place. But I could not be currently happier that this place exists. It's the truth, man. Like it's, you want to get out. You believe that the rest of the world is where the answers are. And I'm really glad I have traveled as much as I have. But I'm also feeling extremely grateful and blessed to be where I am at the moment, doing what I do, and in some ways being able to observe the rest of the world as though it's some sort of a chaos engine.
It's pretty mental when you think about like what's happening in America. What's happening in America? What's happening in the UK?
What's happening everywhere in the world?
What's happening everywhere else in the world? Like it's kind of mental that the current world stage. This is the most interesting part of the simulation that's happened for a long time.
Do you guys get updates about what's happening in Australia?
Not really. I mean, I don't really listen to the news. The only news I listen to is fucking the news break on Classic FM. If the radio in the kitchen is playing Classic FM.
Well, then I'm sure you don't find out some news about I mean, there's obviously still COVID-related news and things like that, but there is a lot of normalcy. And you always also realize, being the most isolated city in the world definitely has its benefits.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does have its benefits. Feels like a bit of a shelter in the storm to some extent at the moment.
Absolutely.
Jeff. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up.
Well, buddy, I will say, I didn't even know that you'd come to kind of that line of thinking, and it's really cool to hear that you're thinking more along these lines. It's really exciting, and it makes me a bit, I don't know, like I have this little thing to look forward to, that my brother is thinking about returning home, because for the longest time it's been, that you're not thinking about that. And that everyone always asks me, Jono, wherever I am, everyone asks about you. And I give them a little bit of a few lines from my script that I tell them. And that is, he's over there, he's deciding to stay. He thinks there's more over there for him at the moment. I would love him to come home, but it's up to him. and they always say that, some variation on what? That's crazy. And I'm like, no, it's up to him, it's thing. And I say that I'm going to try and, talk to you about it and things like that, but you've got to be free to make your own choices. And as much as I say that I'd love to, they're like, would you like to have him home? And I'm like, yeah, of course I'd like to have him home. My buddy, my creative partner, my best friend.
My captain.
Yeah, so it's really cool that you're thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, things have to change. Dreams can come true.
They can, and they will. They are.
They are. I hope the next podcast is a bit more cheery. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not particularly in a cheery mood, but I really want to laugh and have a silly podcast. So next week will be silly. Because hopefully some more decisions would have been made about this whole shenanigans, and some maybe balls might be rolling, or maybe some uncertainty is cleared up. So I'll have a bit more bandwidth to laugh.
Awesome. Well, once again, dear listener, you've come to the end. If you enjoy this podcast, please tell your friends. So subscribe as well. If you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that also really helps. Not just some stars. Feel free to type some actual words into that little box. Or just, share it on whatever platform you like, because we are going to continue having these conversations, and the more people that we can share them with, the better.
Yeah. It's a way to support Ekko and Sidetrack and support us as people. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's a way to support Ekko and Sidetrack. It's a good way to support us, and we like doing it.
It sure is. All right, my brother. I love you.
I love you too.
I'll chat to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Ekko and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ekko Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.